We want to help people on all levels understand how to get their message out, build a personal brand online using these free platforms. And how do you make that into a legitimate business? We want to help creators figure all of those pieces out.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Videocraft show presented by Video Husky. I am your host, Jon Santiago, and it is my job each week to interview content creators about their stories, strategies, and experiences of building an online audience through video. Now, with close to 2 million subscribers across 2 YouTube channels, Think Media is one of the internet's top authorities on the art and business of video creation. And in this week's episode of the podcast, I have the pleasure of speaking to one of the chief masterminds behind the entire operation. Heather Torres is Chief Operating Officer of Think Media. She's involved in business development as well as content creation for the company's YouTube channel and podcast. By delivering high-value insights through their content, courses, community, and coaching services, Heather and her team have built Think Media into a 7-figure media company that is still continuing to grow to this day. And in this episode, I speak to Heather about her early beginnings with the company, including how she met Think Media founder Sean Cannell. We also talk about how she manages to juggle her responsibilities as a mom, wife, creator, and entrepreneur, the systems and workflows that Think Media has in place to create content and grow their business, and advice that she has for creators who might feel like they've reached a little bit of a plateau in the growth of their channels. We talk about all those things and more in this episode of the Videocraft show presented by Video Husky coming up. But before we get to that, I want to remind y'all, if you can, hit the like button if you're watching on YouTube, or leave a comment. Let us know what you enjoy about the podcast, because we always like to hear from you. So with that said, let's go ahead and toss it to my conversation with Heather Torres of Think Media. Heather Torres of Think Media, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Videocraft show presented by Video Husky. It is a pleasure and an honor to have you on the show because of all the things that you guys do at Think Media. I'm really glad to have this conversation with you today.
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. I'm excited for your audience to be able to dive deeper into YouTube and to all the things and possibilities that are out there. And I'm excited for this conversation. I love that you get to have different creators on, and I'm pumped. So let's get into it.
Yeah, the thing that I want to get into first, and oftentimes when I have these conversations with creators like yourself, is just kind of like the origins and the beginnings of prior to YouTube. But I'm really curious how you and Sean Cannell, obviously, founder of Think Media, how you guys ended up linking up together, and how you ended up working with Think Media in the first place.
Yeah, thanks for that question. Yeah, so Sean Cannell started Think Media about 10 years ago, and him and his wife were doing that as a side project. He was doing other things with different freelance clients, and was growing the channel on the side. And simultaneously, I had been working in digital marketing for, at that time, the past 5 years. I had gone to college for marketing, and I was working with small businesses and government agencies, teaching them things like Facebook ads and how to start a Facebook page, and Google ads and all of those pieces. And then I started to go into course creation, helping entrepreneurs learn how to create online courses. I started with educators who were helping people in the parenting space. And when my husband and I were relocated to Las Vegas because of my husband's career at the time, I was like, I need to get around people who get me, that like understand the language of what I'm doing, because I'm like out in social media land and my friends have no clue. And so I was just searching around for different people in the area, and I knew that I needed to learn video. This is pre even video being a part of Instagram or a part of Facebook, back when it was like you just posted pictures of your food and your dog.
Yeah.
And so I was like, video is going to be the thing. They had just announced that they were going to start video advertising. And I had an agency at the time where I was helping small businesses with their online advertising. And they had announced that video was the thing. And I was like, I need to learn how to do video. And so I was poking around on the internet, And I typed in how to do YouTube basically on YouTube, and guess who showed up? Sean Cannell. Now, at the time, Think Media at that time was at about 15,000 subscribers. So he had a little traction, but it wasn't what it is today. And I was like, oh my gosh, he said he lives in Las Vegas. I live in Las Vegas. So I went to Twitter and I said, hey, just saw your videos, pumped for what you're doing. We seem to be aligned in what we're doing. Now, this is my version of what it says. It was very much like, hi, I love your YouTube videos, and do you want to connect, basically? And I said, hey, I have a certain set of skills that I think could be really valuable to you. And I wasn't necessarily there to pitch him. I said, I'd love to work for you for free. I'd love to intern with you because I want to learn video. And I sent him some of my things that I have been working on. And so we decided to meet up at a coffee shop. Both of us are married, highly respect our spouses. And so we were like, we're going to meet in a public place. We're going to talk about YouTube, basically. And so we met up and we sat there for a few hours and really realized that our visions aligned, our missions aligned. We both had different skills and we're really passionate about helping people. And so at the time, Think Media had just become his full-time thing. He'd lost his freelance clients. Him and his wife were being supported solely on YouTube and affiliate marketing and a little bit of brand sponsorships. And he's like, I think everything you're saying is great. Like, we could make this course, we can make millions of dollars, but I can't pay you. And I said, let's just make this worth it for both of us. And we decided to do a revenue split, a company split. If we created our online course, Video Ranking Academy, and it was successful, we would both win. But if it wasn't successful, we both would lose. And luckily, it's been very successful. We've now grown not only the Think Media channel to 1.7, I think we're 1.7 million subscribers. Yeah. We now have one of the fastest growing video marketing podcasts. We have a team now of 18 people full-time who work around the country supporting families. And we've got over 8,000 students inside of our academy and seeing massive results. I actually just got off with someone who just quit their job. So it was really cool to see all of that while I'm homeschooling my 3 kids. My husband was now able to leave his career and we are doing Think Media full-time as 2 families. So that's kind of the gist of how that whole story came out. We can unpack more, but that's the Heather and Sean origin story of how Think Media became what it is today.
Man, that's awesome. Like there's so much there. Like the one thing that came to mind as you were kind of wrapping up there, that story was just how you're able to juggle all of this, right? Because you homeschool your kids and you're running this business, you're growing this business as well. Like, as you mentioned, Think Media started when you got there around 15,000 subscribers, now close to 2 million. You have all of these courses, you have all of these students that you've been able to educate and teach throughout the years. How do you stay organized? What's your system? What's your secret?
Yeah. Well, number one is definitely Google Calendar. I love calendars. I love calendar blocking. And I think a lot of it actually came down to just prioritizing. I think that a lot of things are wasted in busy work. And so both on the homeschooling side and in the business side, I just don't deal with busy work, basically. I just like, what are my income producing activities? And that's something that Sean and I have been focused on for the last 6 years, is what are the income producing activities? Having business cards, scrolling on Instagram aren't producing income. How can we do things that do produce income? And so for me, I love calendar blocking. So I'm huge on that. And then I'm huge on outsourcing. I think that a lot of creators are actually stifling their success because they're selfish, and they're not, and selfish is a harsh word, but I want it to sting a little. They need to be thinking about, who can I be on a team with to move this forward? And so both in homeschooling and in business, we've really thought, how can we just get more people on the bus? How can we get more people on the team that can help us to be able to do things so that we can be, a week in Seattle, Sean's family and my family last week, masterminding about the next big projects that we have, and really just thinking that. But to me, it's about setting good intentions, setting priorities, and staying focused in the work that I'm in. So if I'm in family time, I am in family time. If I'm in business time, I'm in business time, because I believe that we only have so much time on this earth, and I want to be as great of an impact as I can. And so I just really set intention every single morning of what do I need to accomplish today that's going to move both missions forward, my family's mission and our team's mission. Mm-hmm.
I imagine that's something that you took you time to like learn and figure out. It's not like, all of a sudden the person that you are today, Heather, is like, yeah, I came out of the womb like this, just super organized, knowing exactly how to use Google Calendar and like block my time. Like how long of a process do you think that was for you? And I imagine it's still actually even like a constant like process of optimization.
It is. Oh, decades. I could wear the badge of honor of procrastinator. If you were to look at Heather, the college student, I was so self-conscious about who I was and what I was doing. I ended up dropping out of school to pursue entrepreneurship, and I was the only one that was doing that. So my self-confidence was low. I would procrastinate like crazy. I would, if you were to look at Heather 10 years ago to who I am now, stark difference, very stark difference. But really it came from, I fell in love with learning through books. So I found online mentors. They didn't know who I was, but I knew who they were. And I was like, how did so-and-so get there? And they would say things like, I created a morning routine. I'm like, check that box, create a morning routine. So it was baby steps along the way. And it was really just about understanding as I started going through entrepreneurship, what my mission was, what my vision was, what did I want my life to look like? And over time, I've just been able to optimize more and more. I watched hundreds of videos on Google Calendar to learn how to use it. And then I just stayed committed to it because to me, it's such a great communication tool with not just what I need to be doing, but the people around me can see, what I'm focused on and things like that. So I was a procrastinator's procrastinator back in the day. But that doesn't get you to where you want to go. And hard work, determination, perseverance, and persistence will get you to where you want to go. And so discipline becomes a big part of that. And my time is a huge discipline that I have in my life.
So who are some of those mentors from afar, people, influencers or whatnot that, whose books or content that you were consuming that really played a major role in kind of getting you aligned and heading in this direction that you're on right now?
Yeah. I mean, so starting way back in the day, I remember my husband and I were moving from Northern California to Southern California. It was about an 8-hour drive. Yep. And my dad had like thrown this CD thing in my car and he was like, you should listen to this. And it was this guy, Tony Robbins. And I'd never heard of him before. And I was like, okay, whatever. So it said like money mindset or something like that. And I was like, well, I'm $40,000 in debt. I have no clue how I'm going to make money. All these things. I was like, might as well listen to it. So I listened for like 8 hours straight to this first Tony Robbins CDs that I put into my car. And my mind was just so blown away. I was like, wow, people think this way? Like I had felt so different. I didn't really fit into the school system. I didn't really fit into the crowd. I always kind of thought outside the box and I felt so different. And so then I was hearing Tony Robbins. I was like, oh my gosh, that's how I think. I'm scattered all over the place and I need help in focusing. And so Tony Robbins was an early person for me. I remember driving to clients listening to the beginnings of Amy Porterfield's podcast way back in the day, just about lead generation and time management of how she was doing it. Marie Forleo, I was one of her first B school graduates that she had way back in the day. I mean, like a decade ago when she started B school. So those were some of my early mentors in all of that. And so just really understanding the online entrepreneur and really seeing where I wanted to go was through books and courses and podcasts and all of those pieces. I basically cut TV and movies out of my life and just consumed content that was going to help me progress in what I wanted.
Yeah, I wonder too, like, especially these days, right? We're not, there's no shortage of content out there. I mean, there's so many great people, great companies like yourself. As I mentioned, to you before we started, we've had Tim Schmoyer on the podcast. We've had Owen Hemzath on the podcast, other people doing great things in the space, educating people how to maximize and leverage video. And imagining from that, the perspective of somebody who is getting started, it can be quite overwhelming, right? Like to kind of figure out, who do I listen to? Like who is the person that like I should be following? And especially again, with these days, there's so many people out there who, are quote unquote claiming to be gurus and whatnot. Like how would you advise somebody to kind of figure out who it is that they should be following and listening to when it comes to getting started on a platform like YouTube or video creation?
Yeah, really great question. And this is something that I think about this a lot, because I'm like, there's new gurus popping up every day.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, are people following them? Like, how are they getting, and they're only getting this status because people are following them. So for me, I kind of have like a litmus test of who I would let into my life. Like John Maxwell to me is such a huge mentor in my life. I didn't even mention him before, but his books have been so revolutionary to me. And not only just because his books are great, but because he as a man is great. And so for me, it's like, does he have the receipts? He's teaching leadership. He's teaching business development. He's done those things. So I suggest that when people are following people or looking to people, has that person already succeeded at the thing that they are teaching? That is something that is very important to me. I'm not going to go to someone who's teaching me how to grow a 6-figure business and they haven't actually built a 6-figure business. They're just teaching, they're just teaching what they've regurgitated from the person who did earn the 6-figure income. So for me, I like to look at not just the person, just the front facing person, but I want to know, like, what's their lifestyle? What causes are they for? Just who are they as a person? Because I believe that when you bring someone and you're learning from them, you're going to start to consume beyond just the things that they're teaching. We see this at Think Media all the time. I'm helping mothers homeschool right now. That's not at all what we're teaching on Think Media, but because they know I am a homeschooling mom, they're asking for that advice. And so if you are looking for mentors, who is the person as a whole person, not just the thing that they are teaching? Chalene Johnson is another great example for me. She has raised 2 amazing children. Her and her husband, Brett, are still happily married. They've built multiple successful companies. They're giving back in massive ways. I'm like, I want to learn how she did that, right? Not just how some woman grew a business, but I want to learn how she holistically was able to contribute to society in such a large way. So if you're picking mentors as you're watching YouTube videos, as you're going through Instagram feeds, really dive into that person on a larger level to see, is that lifestyle congruent to who you are and what you want to build? Because I believe that if you are following bad mentors, you will not build good businesses. It'll just crumble. If you're following good mentors who have built the thing, then you should have success in your business as well.
Yeah. So part of it too is like knowing yourself and knowing like what jives with you personally and value wise as well, right? Because I like to say, a lot of times when I have brought this topic up with other guests, there's so many of these types of influencers and gurus, so to speak, like someone like a Tony Robbins or a Gary Vaynerchuk or a Tim Ferriss. They're kind of like teaching the same thing, but they're communicating it in a different way. Much like what you, Tim Schmoyer, Owen Hemseth, you're teaching essentially the same things, but you're communicating it in a way that resonates with a particular person, right? Like the outcomes are essentially the same, but the way that you're talking about these things and the way that you're educating people just really clicks with the people that you end up working with more so than others, right?
Yeah, definitely. And especially for me, standing out as one of the female teachers in this space. I mean, there's not like Catherine Manning. We've got Sunny Lenarduzzi, Jessica. Yeah. I mean, we're female leaders in this space. So a lot of times I'll just attract women, because they're like, oh, you're a mom. I'm a mom, so even just the ideas of, I love how you brought up that example of Tim Ferriss and Gary Vaynerchuk. They're all teaching exactly the same types of things. It's just the spin of how they're actually delivering that content. So I completely agree. And I think people should just be wise to know if someone's just popping up out of nowhere, dig a little bit deeper, really see, what that looks like. All the people you've mentioned, I'm like, they, to me, are in high regard. They're amazing teachers. Why? Because they've already built the thing before they started teaching the thing. And Owen and Tim are amazing teachers in YouTube.
Yeah, for sure. I want to touch base a little bit too with what you mentioned there. You kind of got my curiosity piqued there in terms of being a female entrepreneur and being a woman in this space, right? That is predominantly male dominated, right? Where there are a lot of men who are kind of the authority figures, I guess, in terms of, hey, how to build a business or how to build a YouTube channel or whatnot. Can you dive more into your experiences there with that? Like, have you ever had situations where you face maybe say like imposter syndrome about, being a woman in this space and comparing yourself to others?
Yes. Oh man, I love that you hit that, because that is exactly what it is. And I have a book coming out next year called YouTube Made Simple, written really from the woman's perspective. I mean, it's for everyone, but it's that idea that like we're going to hit the fears right off the bat, because there've been so many times where I'm the only woman in the room, in that respect. And so I feel, undervalued, or just like, am I even supposed to be here? But I've just seen so many amazing male leaders in our space that champion the women in our space as well. And so I think for me, I felt that imposter syndrome of like, who am I? I'm not pretty enough. I'm not good enough. I talk too fast. I use my hands. I'm Italian. It's just who I am. Right. I'm also a mom. I don't like dress in cool suits and all that. I'm like a Tevas over heels kind of girl.
Yeah.
And so I've had to figure out who I am first, and then just share the information that I know will help others. And so for me, specifically with the book, YouTube Made Simple, it really is just this idea that like, this doesn't actually have to be complicated. Like, I understand you probably think this is complicated. It doesn't have to be. Use your phone, make good content, make a community, and keep going. Like, those things are the pieces that will help you become successful. And I speak to women so many times about the insecurities of getting on camera. I mean, like, I don't know, Jonathan, but did you have to put your makeup on today and do your hair? No. Okay.
I did do my hair. I will say, but me doing my hair compared to what you have to do, like literally all I do is just like put some pomade with my fingers, and that's it. And it takes me like 2 minutes, Exactly.
I actually had a friend who's a makeup artist teach me how to do makeup for camera, because I was doing it so horribly. So it's all these little pieces of insecurity. But I think that women have such an empowering message to bring to this platform. Female creators are on the rise as a whole. And so to be a teacher in this space, I've actually never felt discriminated against. Like I said, all of the leaders in this space are so for championing all the leaders. I mean, we're all friends actually behind the scenes, like everyone's friends with each other.
Yeah.
But as a female entrepreneur, I do feel like there are other securities that we have to overcome. And when more and more of us step up and say, no, I'm going to do this, I'm going to step out, I'm going to get out of my comfort zone, I'm going to make good content about baking or housekeeping or entrepreneurship or lead generation, whatever it is you're doing. Once you do that and other women see it, we start all stepping up, because your courage has started first. So I've definitely seen and felt like I'm not good enough, but I've been able to overcome that through encouragement from other people in the space.
How do you deal with situations where you're challenged for being a woman? Like, one thing I often ask a lot of women YouTubers and creators that I've had on the podcast is how they deal with like negative comments. I'm just kind of curious. Of course, you try to like brush it aside, because it's just somebody on the internet who's throwing something out there on their keyboard, but it still hurts, right? Like, how do you go about dealing with that and not letting it, take down your whole day when those things come along?
Yeah. I mean, the answer I want to give you, Jonathan, is that I'm like, oh, everything's fine. I just brush it off and it's all good. I cry when people say mean things, because it is hurtful. I've put time and effort, and I've studied hard. I'm teaching good content. I put my heart and soul into what I'm doing. And if someone has a negative comment, I've over the years been able to have thicker skin around it, but it hurts when people say mean things about, especially as a woman, what I look like. I get all the time, your teeth are crooked, you talk too fast, your hair is out of place, you look like a Duggar. I'm like, okay, that's weird comments, but
I don't even know what that is.
It's like the Duggar family. They're like anyways. I thought that was a really weird comment. And then it happened a couple of times. I'm like, where are all these people coming from? So where are they coming out of? The haters? Like, anonymous? I don't know. But yeah, I think for me, I have committed to putting good work out in the world. And so people, if you make a stance for something, there will be people that disagree. There will be people that are jealous. There will be people who are afraid of your courage and your boldness. And so over the years, I've just learned that I have grace for those people. And I know that I know I'm doing something right. Now, I think there's a difference between a hateful comment and a constructive comment. I had a constructive comment a couple weeks ago where I was like, you are right. I did say that wrong. You are correct. And I said thank you to them. So I don't take it all as negative, but I know that I want to stand for something. Think Media is on a mission to change lives. And in order to do that, we know that there are going to be quote unquote people who don't like what we're doing. And so just over the years, it's been building the muscle of being able to have grace and be able to have a thicker skin and actually not reading things. If I start to see that a comment is negative, I go to the next one, and I just try and guard myself from the negativity that can be on the internet.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes total sense to me. I mean, on that note, like, one of the other things I want to talk to you about and ask you about that's somewhat related to this is just in terms of how you decide what to share and not share as a creator, on whatever platform that is, be it YouTube or Instagram, because you are living life as like a public figure, right? Like there's like this level of it's like a micro level of celebrity that you have, right? Because I'm sure you could walk around Las Vegas right now and, you're not going to get hounded by like a bunch of people for like an autograph or something. But I'm sure at the same time, there are quite a few people who recognize you and want to chat with you, especially when you go to conferences. Like I know, like I think Vid Summit is coming up here pretty soon. People know who Think Media is. So I'm kind of curious just how you go about deciding what to share online versus not share online, especially with having kids.
Yeah. Yeah. We actually just had a family meeting about this not too long ago. My kids now are 14, 12, and 9. And we had a meeting about it. And I just said, I want to share as much of your story as you want me to share. So I'm going to share from my perspective as your mom. But if you don't want to be on camera, if you don't want to be in this content, totally fine with me. So we've really talked about sharing more of just the business aspect of it. And I understand people are very interested in the private life that I have in terms of how am I doing it with kids? How are you homeschooling along with running a business and all of those pieces? And I want to share pieces of that, but there's also parts of it that as I've gotten advice from other people who are on higher, like way higher levels publicly than I am, one of the things they wish they would have done is not actually be as open in their amount that they're sharing. Because for me, I'm a YouTube teacher. I'm teaching people YouTube. I'm teaching entrepreneurship. And just kind of like Gary Vee does, I kind of take that lean. You don't see pictures of his wife or his kids. You see like his dad every now and then. But really, it's very business focused. But you still get an insight into his life from the stories that he's telling and the things that he's doing. But you don't see them. And so really, as we're growing Think Media, I've just chosen to be more private on those pieces because I want my kids to have their own story. We went through an adoption a few years ago too. And that really shifted my mindset too about like, well, how much do I share and what do I talk about online about that publicly? And so, yeah, we've really just, as a team, I approached the team afterwards and I was like, I really just want to share business stuff, like all my podcasting things and I'm fine if I do an interview with someone asking me about my kids, but I kind of want to just keep it private. And that's just something I've made. Now, Sean, totally opposite. He loves sharing that. He's like rise and grind every single day. That is who he is. He's creative in that way. And so I honor what he wants to do as well. But for me, I've just chosen that, especially at the age of my kids where they are right now, which may change in a decade when they're not at home anymore. We're just going to share more of the business side of things rather than the private side of things.
Yeah, because it's one thing that I wonder about, especially, going into the future, because we're really still kind of in this like beta phase with all this content that we're sharing online about us. Even think about people who aren't creators, right? That aren't necessarily try to build an audience for themselves. Just people with their own personal Facebook profiles or Instagram accounts, just, with their friends, and all this content that like you've shared throughout the years. And, I personally, I'll go back and look at stuff that I posted like 10, 12 years ago. And I'm like, oh God, I was like a totally different person back then.
Exactly.
And so I don't know if a lot of people really wonder about that or think about like the repercussions of it, and it's great to hear that obviously, you have a family, these are things that you're thinking about, in regards to your own kids as they grow up and letting them have their own story.
Yeah. And also, That's to me the biggest part of it. I think that we can, there's certain causes that I love, that I support. I won't share that publicly. There's certain things that we do as a family. We just went on vacation. I didn't really even share that publicly because that was our time. And so I want to have this kind of separation between it, because I do want to make big change. I do want to impact millions of lives, but I know that will come at a cost of our personal lives. And so I want to kind of guard that with as much as I can right now, and to speak true to the things that people are even subscribing for. People don't necessarily want my opinion on current world events. They want how to grow their YouTube channel. So exactly. I also want to stick in the lane that I'm even on social media for. My mentor, Shalene Johnson, she said, if you're on social media, be on social media for business. Like if you want to have a personal account, have a text messaging stream with your friends, but use social media for what it can be used for, as a free platform to gain leads to grow your business. And so I've really adopted that mindset more than the mindset of, let me just share my entire life on this platform and all of my thoughts on everything that's happening, when that's not even why you're there at all, to even to subscribe or to like what I'm even doing.
Yeah, for sure. So Heather, I want to shift gears here a little bit and go back to some stuff that you had mentioned in the beginning, and that's kind of with the business of Think Media. And I'm really curious about your growth. It's interesting. The last guest that I had on this show is Jessica Stansberry, and I had mentioned to her that, hey, I have Heather coming on the show, and I wanted to talk to Jessica about like scaling up her business and hiring people and whatnot. And she was like, oh, you got to ask Heather that, because like they're doing that at Think Media. They're growing so rapidly and whatnot. I'm like, good idea. I should ask them about that. And you mentioned that, you now Think Media has 18 employees working remotely all around the country, specifically here in the US, right? You don't have anybody abroad.
One contractor in Canada right now,
gotcha.
But everyone else is in the US.
So North America. There's a couple things I want to unpack there with you about that. First and foremost, how do you go about streamlining collaboration and communication with each other, considering that you guys are all based in so many different parts of the country?
Yeah, I learned very early on in entrepreneurship that in order to scale, systems and processes and communication have to be the three main pieces that get established early on. And coming from the creative side, that is not something that creators are mostly skilled in, right? Like, let's create a system and a process and communicate well on these things. Everything comes from their head and they just want to like go and do. And so as we've been able to scale Think Media, our communication started with Heather, Sean, and Omar inside of a Facebook Messenger thread. Everything in the business happened in there.
That's awesome.
It was horrible. It was like Facebook Messenger thread, text messages happening, an email would be sent out. It was horrendous. And I was like, no, hold the boat. We need to actually make this something that we can scale, because we can't add more people to this thread, guys. It was insane. So I really dove into understanding online systems. How do big teams communicate? What are the processes and platforms that people are using? So as we've scaled, we now use Slack. That is our main company communication tool. We also have put different parameters and boundaries in place. We do not send any emails as a company to each other. Everything is through Slack messaging. We don't text work-related things to each other. Everything is in Slack. We don't Facebook message work, but everything that's work-related is in Slack. And that took a while for us to get there, but it has allowed us to be able to work at different time zones on multiple different projects at one time. If like our Slack right now has like 17 different categories that you could be talking in. So different departments are talking, different projects are happening. Podcast has one, Think Media channel. So there's a lot of communication happening there. That's the day-to-day that's happening in Slack. And that's scaled from 3 people now up to 18 people, contractors. And then now we've incorporated all of our brand partnerships into there. So different brands that we're working with, all of that communication is happening in Slack. We do all of our project management on Monday.com. We started on Trello. That was a great program when it was a small team. But as we've grown and we've added different creators or different projects like Grow with Video Live, which is an entire live conference for 1,000 people. We have to like grow to other platforms. So we use monday.com for all of our project managing. So any launches that we have when we're promoting Video Ranking Academy, all of our videos, so our editors and our content creators and our producers, whoever's in that thread. That sounds fancy, but really it's like 2 people. It's not crazy. It's like 2 people are talking. But when an editor in Canada is sending us information, we need to know that that happened. And how are we communicating that beyond like, hey, did you get that video in for Friday? We needed systems so that we could plug people in as we grow. And so those are our 2 main pieces that we use. And then we document along the way. So if we are bringing someone in, we have a brand. We have like, this is the kind of editing we like to do. Here's like our editing styles. Here's our brand colors. Here's how we collect leads. Like we have different videos so that we can plug people into the process. And so then, yeah, over the last few years, I mean, we're like, we went from Heather and Sean to be like, hey, did you see if that check cleared, to like processing payroll and paying massive amount of taxes. Like we've definitely grown from where we used to be to actually a full-blown legitimate business with like HR and, business taxes and all that kind of stuff, from contractors now to employees and all of those things. And it's because we committed to systems, processes, and programs right away as we were developing Think Media.
Were there moments in the growth of Think Media where it's just like inflection points where you're just like, okay, yes, we need this. We need to now like transition from Trello to Monday. We need to stop messaging each other on Facebook Messenger. We need to get everybody on the same page. Did those happen for you guys? And those were kind of just like the impetus to kind of like scale to the level that you guys are at now?
Yeah, when we would see when things start falling through the cracks, we know that there's a problem. That's where we're like, okay, where's the problem? What does that look like? And that's really what my strength at our company is I can really from a 50,000 foot level see what is happening. Are these 2 people not communicating? Did the project does the editor even know that they need this end card on the like all of those pieces? So yeah, it definitely was something as we move forward. One of the things too that Sean and I committed to right away was we got an assistant that worked part-time that was like answering all of the emails and things like that, because communication would stop that way too. So people do still email us. We just don't email them back. We have someone on our team that does that because we were spending so much time solving all these little problems that we weren't actually able to scale the company. And so the first advice I give when content creators come to us and they're like, I want to kind of scale, I want to bring a team member on. I'm like, the 2 people you should look for is an editor and a personal assistant. Those are the 2 roles to fill first, because that will alleviate your time to be able to see where things are falling through the cracks, and you can start to create systems and processes around that. Yeah. So even we just did another round of hiring. We hired 5 people. And even through that process, we were like, oh my goodness, we now need to have an HR company helping us, because we need to figure out like, what is our paternity leave? Like, we give paternity leave. Do we pay for that? Does the state pay for that? Like all these things that you never learn anywhere. No one teaches you these things.
Yeah.
It was revealed to us that, oh my goodness, we need to go to the next stage other than like Heather sending you a cover letter saying, do you want to be on the team? Right. We need like an official job offer for an employee to file a W-2. Like that's where we had to go in this next round. So yeah, we definitely see those pieces as we scale. But figuring out where the communication's breaking down or the process is breaking down is where we've been able to fill in with software.
So at this point, what are like the big hurdles or obstacles or even challenges in terms of like that are in the way of you guys getting to the next level of where you guys think Media can go?
Yeah. Oh, what a great question. So we are Grow with Video Live is a conference that we started a few years ago. We're on year 5 now, and that has just kind of ballooned into now an events side of our company. We're going to be hosting it in 2022 in May, and we're expecting to have like 1,500 people. we need team around that because our team can break down very easily trying to plan an event. So we're going to be hiring team around that part of it. We're scaling into just more demand for Heather and Sean. And so we're really building out. We look at Dave Ramsey as a really great example. We want to build personalities in our company so that it's not so dependent upon Heather and Sean being the forefront or the faces or the teachers of those certain things, because we do want to scale into more education. We do want to give more back to our community as a whole. And we want to scale that company into something bigger where we could be doing high level ticket products. We could be doing more in-person things. Sean and I are both book writers. We want to be authors on multiple levels, and it takes a lot to write books. So staffing around those types of things, that's where we see the company moving in the next few years and dominating YouTube. I mean, if we're real, that's what we want to do. We want to help people on all levels understand how to get their message out, build a personal brand online using these free platforms. And how do you make that into a legitimate business? We want to help creators figure all of those pieces out. So that's kind of a little bit of where we're struggling and moving into this next season.
So tell me about, I want to shift now into just a conversation about the content creation process for you guys in terms of how you guys are able to produce your podcasts, to produce all the content for the YouTube channel. And again, with a remote, fully distributed team, what does this look like for you guys?
Yeah. So if we're talking about, we'll break it into two. So Think Media has 4 main content creators: myself, Sean, Omar El Takori, and Nolan Molt. And those 4 content creators produce 1 video a week on that channel. Now, Sean and I have been back and forth on what that looks like, but our other 2 content creators produce 2 videos per week on that channel as part of their contract and what they're doing with us. And so it starts with, we plan out our videos by 2, 4, 6, 8, depending on how many videos you're going to be creating. And what that looks like is we all get together and we say, okay, what videos do we want to be creating? What are our analytics saying? What is our community asking for? What videos do we want to create? Then we divvy up those videos and we then create those videos usually by batching them. We normally don't create 1 video ever at a time, ever. That's like against our rules.
Yeah.
You have to batch produce all videos. Actually, I just produced 2 videos right before this because I just interviewed someone and made part 1, part 2. So
Gotcha.
We're always batch producing multiple videos at one time. That content creator then creates their own content. And if they send it to the editor. So that would get uploaded into a Dropbox or whatever that would look like if the editor was on site with them. Like Omar and Kyle live next to each other. So usually Omar just gives Kyle the footage. Like it's very easy in that way.
Yeah.
But my editor is in Canada. And so I will record on Dropbox or I record on StreamYard or some type of software that allows me to then send it to him. He edits it, I review it, and we just kind of go back and forth. Now we have a thumbnail designer who helps us with that. It used to be Sean and Heather. We would know what the thumbnails would be prior to. So we plan out our whole video before we even shoot it. So we would know what the thumbnail would be prior to shooting it. We'd then do all of the optimization to the video and then schedule the video to be released. We normally right now are about 2 to 4 weeks ahead on videos on the main channel. And that fluctuates depending on what's happening in the season. But that's like just a nutshell of like Think Media. And then the podcast is produced by myself and Sean. Sean lives in 2 different places. He's in Washington and Las Vegas. And so when he's in Las Vegas, where I am, we will schedule a podcast shoot day and we'll shoot anywhere between 8 to 12 podcasts at one time so that we have content for that entire quarter. So we really only shoot for 2 days. And then that content then gets distributed out from our editor over the next couple months. So we are always continually thinking about putting the content out first, building the business, put the content out, build the business. And we just go back and forth on those 2 pieces, but everything's done remotely through amazing software that allows us to do that. So when in our Monday.com boards, I'm like going so deep, Jonathan.
It's
in
awesome.
Our Monday.com, when I scheduled that, like I just shot those 2 videos, I just changed a color in the button. My editor just got notified. So I don't need to send him a message and be like, I just filmed these 2 videos, I just click a button and he gets notified that happened. So then it goes into his process. So there's a lot of automated communication that goes into our processes, because if not, lots of things would get lost in communication and things like that. So we automate like crazy on that end.
Yeah, no, automation is so useful and
Is that
so
what you wanted,
powerful.
Jonathan? Did you just want like everything? Because I just laid it all out right there.
I do, and I think the people listening to this show or watching it, they will appreciate this, because this is like what it takes, I think, to really build something that is sustainable. You don't have to have something super elaborate like what you guys have, especially if you're just starting out and you're a solo creator, right? Without like a bunch of people to work with. But even me, like here with this podcast, we have myself, I have my producer, and we have an editor. We have a team that helps put this together, because I may be the person who is on the front lines here in terms of being on camera, but it takes a village, to really build things out, and, to have systems in place. I understand the value of it. And I think for people to kind of hear how you guys build your systems out can maybe at least nudge them in that direction if they haven't started building their own yet, just yet.
Yeah, when it was Heather and Sean and Omar part-time, Omar was building his business on the side. So he was just on as a contractor helping us in production. It was a Trello board where we were like, this is the video this week. We were not weeks ahead on content. We were thinking of the next video.
Yeah.
And because we were in that constant rat race of feeling like, what's the next video? What's the next video? What's the next video? We just started to put systems in place that could buffer us a little bit if my kid was sick that week, or if Sean was at a conference speaking that week. How could we figure out those systems? It started with very simple Trello boards. Jessica Stansberry actually is perfect at this. She's so good at all those little pieces. And she's got a team around her now, but she showed how she was doing it as a solo content creator. We are on a massive scale. We're serving, thousands of people every single month in our internal content and our external content. We're putting out 6 to 7 videos a week. I mean, that's insane of where we are. When we started, it was 1 video a week was the only video we worried about. So this is definitely something as you scale to know that it's possible, if that's your vision, to go big and to really build out a full company around your YouTube channel.
Yeah. And the possibilities are just like limitless, really. Like you can do and aspire to do what you guys are doing at Think Media and essentially build out a media company, or you can be like a smaller operation or outfit with maybe just yourself and an assistant and an editor. And it's possible to do that too. Like it's kind of like your mileage may vary with whatever you want, whatever your aspirations are when it comes to being a creator.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to ask you some more tactical stuff about content creation, particularly like a lot of the new developments that have been happening over, the last year or so. I mean, in the last year, we've seen the rise of TikTok, right? Like just it's everywhere now. They're marketing. They've been paying for ads on television. You can't avoid TikTok these days. And it's obviously got Instagram and YouTube on their heels a little bit, and they've installed their own short form video platforms as well. I'm kind of curious your thoughts about, the potential and how you would go about advising someone to leverage short form videos these days when it comes to creating video content.
Yeah. And short form, I mean, like my grandma knows what TikTok is. That's crazy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that is, it's definitely my 12-year-old knows, and my grandma. So it's definitely hitting in all the ways. I have 2 kind of answers to this. One, if you are a solo creator, you're starting out on YouTube, maybe you're making some money off of affiliate marketing, you're getting AdSense, you're starting to build that up. We always recommend have one main platform and one supportive platform. Don't try and be everywhere all the time as a solo creator, because you will be on the hamster wheel of social media and never be able to get off. It's overwhelming when you're trying to think of creating content specifically for each of these platforms, because I do believe it should be organic content to the platform. So if your main channel is YouTube, pick a secondary. Maybe you want to do TikTok. Maybe you're like, no, actually, I want to do Instagram because I can do the stories and I can do the IGTV and I can post and I can, reels. I want to do all of Instagram, or maybe it's Twitter, or maybe it's LinkedIn, or maybe it's Reddit, whatever that looks like for you. Pick one and pick a secondary to go all in on. Don't pick 5. Now, if you've grown to a point where you do have a team around you, I recommend that you start going in on short form content on all the platforms that support short form content, because someone can find you on either one of those platforms. So when we're creating our short form content, we're posting it both on TikTok and Instagram because people are on both places. So might as well repurpose content. We actually do a lot of repurposing, and it's one of the things we teach inside of our mastermind is we teach our whole repurposing of content strategy, because if you have spent the time to make a 15-minute YouTube video with 5 tips and you went all into it and you know, you really created this masterpiece, well, that is reverse engineering than what your IGTV could be and what your reel could be, and what, like, you can do the same content and make that happen on all the platforms, or you can reuse those points if it makes sense. So if you do have an editor on your team that understands short form content, it's not everybody that does. They have to understand the quickness, the pieces of it, like how TikTok works is just different than YouTube. So you have to understand those pieces. But for me, I think that if you can get skilled at understanding just how to make videos in general, it's going to help you on all the platforms to be able to do that. We are going all in. We actually have someone on our team that's solely in charge of our social media and our TikTok now, because it's so important to us that we are everywhere all the time, because we're at a level that we can be everywhere all the time. I just interviewed someone, Justin Koo, who's a part of our community, and in literally 30 days, he has as many followers on TikTok as he does on YouTube. In 30 days,
Wow.
He's over 100,000. Why? Because he understands how to make videos. And so he just took those videos, the big video that he puts on YouTube, and he made it into a short form on TikTok and just said, like, point number 1, point number 2, or he took a point and he made a short form video. Does it take more time? Yes. But is he now converting people from TikTok onto YouTube and then into his services? Absolutely. So I am all for short form content. YouTube shorts also, I mean, we could go down the whole thing about that, but this is the way the world's going. So we need to jump on the train and understand how to do these things, or you'll become obsolete in the next wave of whatever happens.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, you know, one of the last things I want to talk to you about as we start to wrap up here, Heather, is continue to be related to the content creation process. I'm sure that you work with creators and have advised creators who may at some point reach like a plateau, and it feels like, oh my gosh, you know, my channel has stopped growing, or, you know, I'm creating all this content and it's not necessarily getting any traction. I feel like the content is good. What kind of advice do you give to those people who may reach those moments in their own creator journey?
Yeah, this is so timely because I was actually just advising someone on this 2 days ago. So the 2 pieces of advice that I gave him were, number 1, are you talking to your audience? A lot of times creators are creating in isolation. They're creating what they think they should create. And the best ideas that we have that we ever get at Think Media are always from our audience. Are you creating spaces where you can get detailed information from them about their struggles and where their pain points are and what they need help with and what videos they like from you and the language that they're using? This is the biggest piece that creators can sometimes miss, and why they start to see plateaus is because they are starting to speak not the language of their viewer, they're speaking the language that they're at. So for instance, here at Think Media, we are going even deeper into the beginner style content. We're like, you'd think we'd already covered it all. We have not. We're going so much deeper into beginner content because we are hearing the language of what they're saying. They're saying things like, I don't understand how to make my background look good. That's what they're saying. They're not saying like how to make a cool background. They're like, how do I make this look blurry behind me? What do I do to make this look blurry? We know it's depth of field. They say, I want a blurry background. So it's understanding the exact language that they're speaking. Here's some things that we do. I get on the phone with our people. Like, I'm talking to them. I'm on Instagram with them. I want to hear their struggles. I want to hear who they are. I will do open office hours and just answer questions. How can you just get more involved with the people who are watching your content? So that's number 1, because the answers are there. You're just you're not seeing the answers yet. You need to get back down with the people and get into their mindset again about where their struggles are. And you'll start to see that skyrocket again. Number 2 you need to dive into your analytics. A lot of people don't like to do this because it can be overwhelming, but like, where is your audience retention? Where do you see the dip happen? When you can click on YouTube, and when you click on it, it'll show the exact frame that it is. We noticed that we started having a dip in our content whenever our faces left the screen. So now on all of our content, we put a little face bubble at the bottom when we're doing the tutorial. So that helped us increase our retention with our audience. That helped our people see us and hear from us on a deeper level. We dove into our analytics and we said, what are the top 20 videos on our channel? Can we make a part 2? If it's doing really well, is there a part 2 we could make to this? Is there did I make this 3 years ago and I've updated information? Can I redo the same video? So rather than going to the depths of trying to find new content, look back at all your old content and remake it even better. We remake Best Camera for YouTube every single year. And every year it goes viral. Why? Yeah. Because it's what people want. They want to hear what it is. So go back into doing that. So those are my 2 things. If you feel like you're at a plateau. And then my last piece of advice for that is that the song, All I Do Is Win, Win, Win is a lie. Is a lie. So there's going to be seasons in YouTube, in life, in your business where there are plateaus. That's where you get to go deeper into your personal growth. That's where you get to go deeper into saying, the reflection of what do I need to change, because what got me here will not get me there. And so where do you need to personally grow? Maybe it's in your leadership. Maybe it's in your communication. Maybe it's you need to partner with someone, or you need to redefine what your mission is on your channel. But I would say that don't believe the hype of all I do is win, 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 because in life, there will be seasons of darkness. In life, there are seasons where it's just not fun, and you got to do the hard work, and you got to get up, you got to make the content, you got to produce the thing, and you don't want to. But as you push through those things, as you persevere and as you stay consistent, you'll start to see the fruits of your labor happen, and the plateau will end, and you'll move on to the next season. And the new levels, new devils. It'll always happen every time you get to a new place and you're like, man, this is so hard. And you look back and you're like, I thought that was hard. Now I'm here and I'm having to figure out, how do you pay the government millions of dollars in taxes? Like, like those types of things where you're like, I was scraping to put guacamole on my Chipotle, like you're just different levels. So I just want to encourage you that if you're feeling in a plateau, we've all been there. It's part of the process, and to just keep moving forward. Man,
Heather, I couldn't have said it better myself. And honestly, there's not much more to add. Like, that's a great way to end this conversation. I really like that expression. New levels, new devils. Is that what you said? That's that. I'm gonna bookmark that one. I might tweet it out or something and just credit you with that and see if it goes viral at some point, because
more money, more problems, new levels, new devils. It all you magically think. Here's it, Jonathan. We'll end on this. I remember when we crossed over to 1 million subscribers. We had like counted down. We were so pumped, right? It was the whole thing. We woke up the next day. The same people having to put out the same videos. Like, you think you're going to get to this new level and it's all going to change, and it doesn't. Like, it's just a new problem, a new thing to solve, a new level. And you know what? I believe that you have been entrusted with certain gifts and abilities that once you put those into play, you will start to see expansion happening in your life. And so as you keep hitting those new levels, when that new problem hits you, be like, oh, I'm at a new level. Okay, I know where I'm at. I'm past that old one. I'm at this new one. And I see it as an encouragement to move forward into the next season.
Well, Heather, thank you so much for coming on this episode of the Videocraft Show presented by Video Husky. So much information, so much knowledge that you shared with me today. And I know that the people who get to listen to this are going to take away a lot from this conversation. So once again, thank you so much for your time and chatting with me today.
Thank you so much. I cannot wait to hear this episode come out and tag me on social media. If you got this episode, I want to know your aha from it. So tag me on social at Miss Heather Torres, or let us know over on Think Media or here so that you can. I just love to read what the aha moments were for you.
Yes, for sure. And that's how she gets to know you guys, so that she can serve you better, right?
Yep.
So thank you again, Heather. This was awesome.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks again to Heather Torres for joining me on this episode of the Videocraft Show presented by Video Husky. If you want to get all the information that she shared on this particular episode, you want to check out our show notes, you can do so at www.videocraftshow.com. And you can get all of our show notes archived there as well. And also sign up to get a free copy of our free script template, which can help you organize and structure your ideas if you're having trouble doing so. Just go to videocraftshow.com to sign up and you'll get a copy of that delivered straight to your inbox. For all of you watching here on YouTube, make sure to hit the like button, leave us a comment because we love to hear from you, hear what you enjoy, what you don't enjoy about these episodes. Feedback is always important to us. And feel free to leave us a review wherever it is that you get your podcasts. We are looking forward to hearing from you and wanting to know what it is that you think we can do better as a show. Gotta go and thank my team for helping me to produce this show. Thanks to Nikki Vicente as well as Ingrid Saraiba and Paolo Lopez for all they do on this podcast. And a reminder for all of you, if you are looking to get your videos edited to look just like this, then visit videohusky.com to learn more. We'll see you another time on another episode of the Videocraft Show presented by Video Husky.